Hey, this is Josh. Just going to do a little bit of a talk through on some of the things with checking out the condition of a coronet here. The one of the biggest things with an instrument this age, it is a early Elkhart Bach Stradivarius, serial number 35369. That puts it 5,369 over the transition from Mount Vernon, New York to the Elkhart plant when Selmer bought the company around 1965. The first serial number they made in that plant was 30,000. So you're already looking at the fact this is a pretty old horn. And so a lot of wear and a lot of things can happen to a horn over the years. So it's important to know what you're looking at. One of the first things people are going to ask about is how the valves and slides and everything move, and they do move smoothly, but that's only part of the equation. If there's any slop in any of it, because you can have it where they don't fit tight enough and everything will feel smooth, but it won't hold what's called compression, and that affects everything from intonation to slotting to general overall blow of the instrument, because it'll change how the instrument feels from what it should, because essentially the air is not going through the holes directly, it's sometimes leaking out along the sides of the pistons. And so one of the first things people will do is they'll take the slide off and they'll figure out which way the air is coming through, and it's coming out this bottom one, so I'll block it completely with my thumb. And if you can hear that hiss coming through, then that means you've got some air leakage. There's a company called Hetman that makes different weights of valve oil, and this is the light piston that they use for newer horns, horns that are pretty new that haven't really had a whole lot of wear to them. After about 3 to 5 years, a horn will probably switch to this one. Some people can wait longer. There's a lot of people who are not in the habit of oiling their valves every day when they really should be, and I've seen a few who don't oil them every week. And that's metal on metal wear, just like it would be on a car engine, so it's going to start really wearing down not just the piston itself, which again, you can look at it and see, well, it doesn't really look all that worn, but you have two surfaces that you have to be worried about. This surface and the surface on the inside of the casing. And both of those over time can wear, and in the case of this, the piston actually wobbles back and forth in the valve casing. If I wiggle it this way or that way, it moves back and forth, and that's way too much play. If you take something like this other cornet I have sitting here, that other cornet was probably made, mid to late 60s, maybe early 70s, but probably more like 67 or 1968. This cornet was made in the 1950s. And great compression. If I take this out, you're not going to hear the air leaking through. Very, very hard to get anything to move on that. And you have no side to side play. So this cornet is probably another 15 plus years older than the one I bought, and it's still in pretty good condition. So some of it has to do with how it was taken care of. That one had a lot of dent work and damage into it. Some of the finish crystallizing was partly due to a poor lacquer job that somebody had redone at some point, which is part of the issue. You'll see some of the engraving on the bell if you look at the pictures a little closer, had some over buffing and it was kind of faded out. And but due to that poor job, it made the finish look a lot worse, and really it is. But the big thing with it is that that horn had a lot of wear, had a lot of tear to it, and so a refinish job is usually one of the first signs of other issues. Some people will say that made it a good player, but that also means it was played a lot, and that's where the valve wear comes into issue on this other horn. So all three valves have that. You can take and use what's called a classic piston oil, and this is basically a higher weight, again, like you would use for your car engine as your engine wears, but that only does so much. And this horn, unfortunately, even with the Hetman 3, it still has a lot of blow-by in it, and at that point the only thing you can really do is to have a valve job done, and depending on where you go, the more reputable shops are going to charge you about $500 for that, and some people at that point would probably say, well, maybe I'll just go for a new horn or a lamp because you consider it's going to cost you that much to redo the valves. Another $600 or $700 to redo the finish on the horn if that's something you care about, and any other repairs that you'd want to make to it. And so that really starts to add up quickly on what you see for the price of this. And these are good horns when they're found in good shape, but just some things to very much watch out for. Again, trying to pull those slides and check and see if you hear any air blowing past. Pick up some of that Hetman Classic 3 if you do, and see if you can get it to lessen. A lot of shops will be able to do a compression test, and they'll give you how much air it's losing when you blow up to 1 pound of pressure per square inch into the instrument, and they'll be able to give you a percentage, so that way you can kind of tell a person, okay, at 1 pound per square inch it's holding 80% pressure on valve 1, 75% on valve 2, and so on and so forth. So that way you know how close you are to it, and you can try it both with and without the thicker valve oil, so that way they can get an accurate picture of what's happening with it.